let's just go ahead and get started because people will join and it'll be fun. So welcome everybody. We are going to be talking about direct mail today, and we have Alex and Ara back in the house. They are our product managers. A little bit about them. You guys met them last week and probably know them because we like to bring them out often, and you will see more of their faces this year. You're welcome. And so any questions that you have about direct mail, acquisition direct mail is coming out, you can ask those big questions, and Jessica, go for it because questions are great and we're here to answer them. So I'm gonna let them take the floor.
We did our first mailer, and I don't know, because my background, but we got several back. And on the mailer, it says return to sender, unclaimed, unable to forward, but the addresses are all correct. And how come it didn't go to or current resident is my question. And also the printing on them is not great. It's, gosh, let me get rid of the filter if I can.
I really like the truck though. It's really nice.
Yeah, I was trying to be cooler because y'all took a picture last time. Okay, so let's go none.
I'll tell you when we take a picture.
Okay, so there's it's messed up on every single card that we got back. That's my main thing is how come they're not delivering them? How can we avoid the printing issues? And yeah, we got more than half back.
Jessica, do you remember when you actually sent out those cards? You're muted. No worries.
Okay, I can look at our marketing pro campaigns. It would have been a one-time, I believe. No, it was.
Was that kind of back last year sometime?
No, it was just a few months ago. We just tried it for the first time. First drip. That's a drip. I don't know. I got a lot of campaigns going. I'm really trying with this marketing pro.
Like to hear that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the print issues while you're looking up the campaign, right?
Yeah.
Let's just talk about the runners and the rollers and all the fun.
One thing that we had noticed was a lot of times when postcards are actually getting returned, when we talk to our print providers, they go through this entire other process of, how you have that yellow sticker on it. They put the yellow sticker, and then on top of that, they actually print another barcode, and then they run it through a completely different system that sorts them back and then sends it back to you. So that additional sorting and processing has introduced a lot of scuffs and marks on it. So we had done test runs on our end, and we confirmed it. Actually, I had basically sent an original postcard to my address, and then had sent out a postcard from my address, but to a wrong address to expect it to come back. And then I saw the differences because of the processing through the sorting facility and coming back. It kind of gives the impression that because of the additional processing, the postcards already go initially through a processing. And then because of the additional processing to come back, which introduces, I think, 2 more machines that this runs through, these stuffs show up. One thing we're additionally working on actually to make sure that even just going out and delivering the postcards through, because our goal is to get the postcards delivered through as little as possible these sorting facilities. So if we can kind of cut down the travel and time, we're working on introducing more graphical print facilities that are located kind of closer to people. So we're going to be, throughout the year, we're going to be adding more print partners that are going to be closer to your location and our tenants, so we don't have to travel all the way, say from other states and things like that. So the more we can do that, the better it will be. But one thing we can't avoid is, unfortunately, once the postcard is getting returned, it's the additional 2 or 3 machines it has to go through to process this to actually end up having those scuffs. We do have, however, which makes the postcards a bit more expensive, but they kind of look a little bit better and protected. There's UV coating on it. So we add them additionally with our print partners. So when they go through the sorting machines, they end up not having as much kind of scuffs or marks on it because of the coating, and it's on both sides. You can probably notice it.
Okay, I did find the marketing campaign. It looks like we sent out print date 1/30/22. I see attributed revenue is 430, attributed calls 4, attributed jobs 3. but I know that we got like a good chunk of cards back. So
Do you, what kind of a campaign was that, Jessica?
it was big
Did it-
sale.
Did it go to, was it an acquisition campaign or did it go to your current
This
customer?
one went to idle customers,
Okay.
and we just wanted to make sure that if they moved, and maybe that's why they're idle, that
Yeah.
our name was in the new homeowner's hand.
Yeah.
So
I'll have to look into something. I know kind of like end of last year, there was a short period of time where we had a bug where the current resident portion was being removed. That was fixed. I know for sure with the acquisition campaigns, we'll have to go back and look to make sure that they're actually there with, especially for the idle ones, it's actually important to have. It's there for your current customers. So Ara and I will take a look at it and figure out if somehow that got reintroduced. Yeah.
It's there.
Oh, so it is there. Okay. So I have a feeling this is something, Jessica, if you can, I don't know if Sarah shared our contact information. If you can maybe take a picture of some of those and send it over to us.
okay.
We usually talk to our print providers to see what they can do on their end to do additional data cleaning, either to augment the addresses or maybe see if those actually shouldn't have been sent out. I'm really curious to find out why the post office decided not to deliver those, even with a current resident.
Yeah, we were excited for our first campaign to go out, and then we were like, oh, they're all coming back.
Yes, send those over to us. We'll take a look and get back to you.
Do we want to maybe talk through how the USPS is processed to update the vacancies? And
yeah, so unfortunately, one thing we know about, it's basically when someone moves, it takes, so the way it works is when someone moves and mail is being returned at some point because someone either decided not to leave a forwarding address, or even if they left forwarding address or maybe the forwarding address expired after a year, whatever it is. And the post office people, when they try to deliver and they return it, it goes into this return bucket. And then the local post office actually is supposed to process them and then add them to their database. Unfortunately, it takes almost like 90 days for a post office to actually process this data, where they know, like, let's say in January that this address is going to get returned, but they don't update us until, let's say, February, March, April, that where the database, the central national database that we get to check that this address now is invalid. So there's a gap of 3 months. One thing we actually want to eventually work on is hopefully acquiring more data from other sources that we can use to augment things that the post office might be too slow on. And other things could be, as we learn from our other tenants who are also using direct mail, that certain addresses are becoming invalid. It's possible that we'll have like maybe a global tenant-wide filter capabilities to, if you're using our service, then we'll know how to filter those things out much better than maybe other companies. But we are looking into hopefully partnering with external companies that do a lot of mailings as well, to hopefully be able to get more data from them that the post office might not have or be too late to share, and add that additional data to our capabilities to filter things out before we send out them direct mail. So it's one of the primary things, like, I constantly with our research and dig into to find out what other data sources we can actually grab and add to in order to be able to filter better. But we talk to a lot of other print providers. It seems like, depending on average, I think they still say, even the USPS says about 10% or so of mails always gets returned. There's nothing they can do about it. Don't know why in your case it was half, so we'll have to look into it and figure out. But I think Jessica will separately, Ara and I, reach out to you to do a small session and go through that process and take a look at the postcards.
And
yeah.
One thing I could recommend, Jessica, is if you could create a fake account within your ServiceTitan account, maybe just add yourself as a customer and give yourself a special tag that could differentiate that customer from any other. When you launch your direct mail campaign and you're building your audience, go ahead and set up a second inclusion group looking specifically for that tag. That way you'll be included in the campaign. And when the mail gets sent out, you'll see what it looks like the first time it arrives and the condition it is in when it arrives to the customers versus what it looks like when it goes through the rollers and comes back scuffed up. It's a good way of getting immediate QA and seeing what your customers are seeing as they receive the campaign. But two, it's a lot more representative of what the card actually looks like in the hands of a customer versus when it's gone through an additional 4 to 6 sorting machines by the time it gets to you. Glad I could help.
How many of you use direct mail, not just Marketing Pro direct mail, but like direct mail just in general for your business? Is this something new? Is this something Christina does? Jessica, is it testing? Dayla, are you guys are using it, just using other things too in Powerhouse, right? Yeah. And Evan, what do you got?
We've used direct mail in the past when we were using customer lobby, but then that obviously went away with the direct mail integration with ServiceTitan. So we're just starting up on direct mail, we just got reputation management with direct mail. So we're just getting that,
That started. Yeah. I mean, I think like when COVID happened, everyone was like, do we direct mail or do we not direct mail? Do we go to TV? Do we not? Like, it was a switch up, right? Because for us, it was, I know, because we had a direct mail cadence that was pretty strong, but we were like, okay, everyone's at home. What are they going to do? And so we kind of paused direct mail for a second and we were like, it's expensive. We need to shift budget. We need to think. And that's always the thing that we pull, that trigger. And now that I've been at ServiceTitan for 2 years, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it was about consistency and I did this wrong, right? I didn't have all of my funnels keep going and the messaging keep going. And I wasn't talking to my existing clients enough in that way and having like repeated messages. We had a 6-week cadence. And with direct mail, it's about a rotation of zip code. So it's like testing it from primary, like if they come in, so you have different segmentations of your audience, right? It's primary, secondary, test, all of these different segmentations, and you can mail them at different times and then funnel them and add layers of marketing with email and, other things that you retargeting. So that's something to keep in mind when you run direct mail, that it's consistency in the marketplace. And it's testing different audiences so that you can see who is going to perform better and who is going to respond more, right? And the more than likely, they're not going to call from your direct mail piece. They're going to go to your website. They're going to go to your brand search. And people are using QR codes because those are hot. So really think about how you can be innovative in direct mail to stand out from the noise, because it can be noisy. And watch, my biggest one thing is watch political things that are happening for holidays. Don't work really hard not to hit in home around those times as much, because you're just going to waste your spend. Those postcards are giant, and think about it, collect mail, which sounds crazy, but I collect mail and I look at all of this stuff and Valpak and all of those, and I compare my offer and see if I stand out or if I just look like everybody else. So those are some tips that I had. Direct mail was not my favorite thing to do, to be honest. And because it took so long, right? You had to create a list, and then you had to scrub your list, and then you had to scrub your list against something else. But then I used, Marketing Pro direct mail, and I was like, oh, this takes me 10 minutes and I have templates that I can play with. So use the templates, keep testing, and we really appreciate all the feedback, because that's how we know if our printers are on it or whatever is happening in the back end, and we can keep asking those questions.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is that you really can't do outside of ServiceTitan. It's really hard because the other printing companies don't really have the same capabilities, is the automated direct mail campaigns that you can set up, because it just is running in your account and working off of the data that's in there and the audience that you set up. For example, anything that happened, maybe in aging equipment or warranty expiring and things like that, maybe thanking for a job recently done. So those all can be automated and set up, and it's not like they're sending thousands of postcards at once. They're sending in smaller chunks related to whatever customer did, that's something that you can actually offload to our system and automate it. You never have to worry about going to an agency or to a printing facility, working with them to every time send out a small chunk of campaign that was related to something that was done. So those are actually really good things to start, if you haven't done it yet, to start those automated campaigns. And then hopefully with the acquisition builder, when it goes to GA, you can then start actually doing with direct mail campaigns, acquiring new customers through various zip codes and testing those out.
Is acquisition months away, weeks away?
So we're planning on doing open beta April and then GA in May.
So if
Evan, if you want to
Yeah.
try out open beta, sorry, Sarah.
I was going to say that. I was like, if they want to join,
Yeah.
can they join?
You can
Yes.
you can even join now, Evan, if you want. We're still letting people in. So
Yeah,
Okay.
I put it in the survey link. So I'm going to drop the survey right now. And then, but when you can say, yes, I'd like to join, and then we'll contact you.
Okay. And this morning I just sent a message to my success manager about this, but when I go in to build a campaign, I don't have the option for direct mail quite yet. I know I have reputation
Oh, interesting.
turned on. I don't know if there's an additional switch to flip, to turn on direct mail.
yeah, I don't know how the CSMs actually, the success managers, turn it on.
But I was building SMS recurring service reminders for this upcoming, AC season.
Great.
To get those set up, and I noticed that direct mail wasn't an option for me yet.
Okay, we'll have someone check on that for you. Yeah, I'll look at that when I'm done here and make sure that config is on for you.
Okay, thank you.
And everyone has the direct mail template gallery, because you don't have to do this yourself. You can just start here and build upon it in Canva. Let me get this for you. So what kind of campaigns are you all wanting to run, needing to run? Like, let's throw out some campaign ideas, and then we'll let Ara talk about acquisition and show you how cool it is and what it really is, because that's important. I'll be quiet for a second.
I could see running one with acquisition when people change addresses or buy and sell a house. If somebody buys a house within our service area, hit them with a postcard within the first couple of weeks.
Cool. We can set that up right out of the gate right now in the beta. So that's kind of good to hear. By the way, Ev, go ahead and refresh your account. You should see the direct mail option now.
Evan went straight to the source.
Jeez, what took you guys so long?
Life hack.
So Christina, you always have great direct mail going on. What's going on in your world?
So we've had a Valpak thing running for a month, probably almost a year now. That seems to have slowed down a little bit, but I think it's just starting to get repeats at this point. We have been running the same offer and design since we started, because it was more of a branding thing and just kind of reaching into those corners that we weren't yet in. So it might be time for a refresh on that. But then we also just started doing, so we did the acquisition beta, and Jessica talked about getting a stack back. You're not the only one. And it was mainly I think their new addresses or something, that it was a little bit wonky because it said the number or the address didn't actually exist. So we did that. I did do it's our free furnace promo time. So we did send out a direct mail postcard for that to existing customers who had inquired or it had been recommended that they consider new equipment in the last year. We sent that out. And then we just started, this is kind of cool. It's through a company called Audience, and we got to customize. It's a handwritten card. It actually looks, like somebody took a pen and wrote it, but they're done with robots, and you can pick your font and your handwriting style. So this we did, the QR code goes to our Google listing. And it just basically says, hi. It goes to people who are not in our customer base in we picked really specific areas that we wanted to go to just had a little bit more filtering capability than the direct mail acquisition. So we gave this a shot. Higher home value areas and just these neighborhoods that we really wanted to get into. And we've seen a decent return from that. That just went out about a month ago, I think, 4 weeks. So.
And so how many times are you going to hit them?
So this particular audience, as of right now, it just went out once, but we have a second campaign coming up and we'll probably bounce back to these neighborhoods again in a couple of months or something like that, just to make another point of contact, because we do have a lot. We got a phone call yesterday, a lady complaining that our marketing was too distracting because she sees too many of our billboards. And I'm like, hello.
Yay! That's what you want to hear.
Yeah.
You want to be that person, be like, oh, thank you.
I kind of hope it makes her start noticing all of our billboards and our vans, and it starts to haunt her. So
You're following her.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I would increase your frequency a little bit if you can for that prospect, because you're gonna, you want them to remember you. Now it's gonna end. Let's think about the economy for a second, okay? So how do you feel when you make a large purchase right now?
Well,
how do you feel when you go to the gas station and fill up your gas tank? Like poop, right? You're like, oh my God, this is expensive. Like, how am I going to afford to go travel? How am I going to afford to do all this stuff? Like, your message has to be consistent and in the face of the customer right now, because they're going to need to find the value in your services and know the authority in your brand and really know your brand right now, because their purchasing is going to start to lag because of everything that's going on in the world, right? We're kind of like cautious about our spending. We're kind of cautious about what's going on. We do want to take vacations. We do want to have fun, but do we really want to replace our AC? Like, do we really like, is that fun? No, but if we replace our AC, can we get like a cool trip that goes with it and a discount? Because there are services out there that you can pair those things with. So think differently about your offer and your message, and like, what do you want them to do, and measure the clicks. So if you put a QR code on there, make sure it's attached to a Bitly or a UTM or something, so you can measure that, because your boss will always come at you and say, well, where's the ROI? And you're like, it's branding, like, we don't know. And the response, oh, well, why is the response rate 0.003? I don't know. What's this what's this attribution revenue? Like, all of these questions, like, I've gotten as well. But what it really is it's a brand play of consistency. So you can tell your owners or the owners that, this is working. Attributed revenue makes sense because there's a lot of places that we have to talk to people. And, we need to just be different. And so be different in direct mail. It will get you further than here's a tune-up offer. Nobody knows what a tune-up is. Like,
the QR code on these is super cool because they're specific to each individual card. So when someone scans it, I get an email telling me that this person at this address scanned this QR code at this time. And I did put a tracking number on it as well. So, the people who are giving us that call, it's coming through and showing it too.
And so where are they converting? If you have attributed revenue, where are they converting that you're seeing the most? Is it Google My Business?
No, I don't think so. Well, yeah, actually. Yeah, I think so. To be fair, I effed up the QR code and it takes them directly. I've
done it so many times. I'm like, oh, I did it on one of our tests on our beta. I messed up a QR code and I was like, oh, I've totally messed up this beta.
It takes them directly to I shared the review form instead of our business listing. So that was my bad. So I don't know I know people are scanning it. I don't know if they're then hitting back and seeing our listing, or if they're, just, they're probably Googling us, if nothing else, and just kind of checking us out. But yeah.
So that's a great point though. QR codes, like, do you want the flexibility of being able to edit on the fly and it doesn't really change the actual QR code? I use flow code. It's not perfect, but I use it for like personal contacts too. There's a lot of QR codes out there. So you can create your own for free, like anywhere, like literally on Chrome. So Jessica, what's your offer on that card? I saw a puppy. That's all I saw.
Sorry. All right, so it's a big sale, 25 off your next service, 250 off installation of a complete AC system, and then we put on their low interest financing and call or text us. I'm new to the QR code thing, so I actually wrote down the flow code, and I'm going to investigate that when we get off of here and get us a QR code and track it and things like that. It says don't miss, the big offer for a limited time. We're offering big discounts, things like that. So
Cool.
kinda
Yeah,
simple.
I mean, test and test away. That's what it's about, right? You're never gonna get. You're gonna be like, wow, this works, and then tomorrow it'll be like, this doesn't work. Oh no.
Mhm.
So that's marketing, and it's totally fine. Just so you know, brush it off. Okay, do you guys want to see acquisition? All right, Ara or Alex, what you do?
Take it away here, guys. Well, let's jump into it. So the main differentiator with acquisition is going to be this. So up till now, we've been looking at existing contacts in your database within the audience builder, and essentially that's limited us to remarketing to existing customers. So with acquisition, we are now going to be able to market to prospects via direct mail. So I'm sure everyone here is privy to this, but just as a refresher, with email and SMS, we require explicit opt-ins from the user and their permission when we collect that data to market. However, with direct mail, that isn't the case. If you have an address, you can send. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'll put myself into the shoes of a marketer trying to build a campaign. And when I opt to create an audience, the first thing I'll see is this selection window that asks me to choose between retaining customers or acquiring new customers. So when we click acquire new customers, go into it right now. The acquisition audience builder is going to open up to our local service area. So I'm local to Glendale, California, which is just above LA. And immediately we can kind of drill into our area and start defining the places we want to target. So let's say I was running some sort of new installation special, maybe we're doing water heaters or maybe we're doing HVAC unit. What I'll go ahead and do is start thinking of my ideal customer profile. And for this campaign, that's somebody who has a little bit more money, and just because they'll have a higher propensity to convert on a more expensive job, maybe target the older neighborhoods where these jobs may tend to be a little bit more likely. Definitely don't want to reach out to condos or apartment just because it may not regard them, and we don't want to be dealing with any renters. So once we have this ideal customer profile in mind, we can start building. In my area, the older homes that typically tend to have wealthier occupants tend to be found up by the mountains here. So what I'll go ahead and do is start searching for them. What I can do is also search for my city name and go ahead and click in on all of the zip codes that apply. And once I do, that audience gets built out for me. And we can now also see all of the members within the audience. So right now we have a reach of about 21,000 members. If we want to drill in to a specific area, as we drill in, we'll see the individual properties that make up this audience. And from here, we can start filtering. So like I said earlier, maybe we don't want to market to any commercial properties or any properties that may not be relevant. In this case, the relevant properties are single family homes, and we'll go ahead and make that selection. Once we do that, we can click apply, and we'll see our reach value drop down, and we'll see these numbers get refreshed here on the screen. And we can actually stack the filters as well. So, if we're running an HVAC promotion or maybe like some sort of water heater promotion, we know that every home's maybe 15 to 20 years old, or potentially even 25 years old, need some sort of major refurbishment or need some sort of major overhaul, or potentially just a new unit. We can go ahead and search for that. What we can do is define a criteria like find me any homes greater than 20 years old. And then again, we'll see that reach value update. Some additional filters we have include the HVAC cooling system or the heating system. So the type of heating system that's being used, the type of cooling system that's being used, and we can filter down by that to make things more relevant. Maybe we're doing a tune-up special for specific types of unit. Maybe we want to upsell people on a certain type of unit onto a more efficient, better unit. Say we have for example, HVAC unit that's rated for a certain load. What we can do is maybe try to search for homes between a certain square footage size, or potentially if we want to keep our marketing to homes that are maybe bigger and have more areas for upsell, again, we can define a filter here, and then based off of that, cut down on our audience. If we want to run something like a new homeowners campaign or a new homeowner special, what we can do is go ahead and filter for properties last sold within, for example, the last year. And then we'll actually get our reach updated as well. Any change that happens here will automatically be reflected within the audience. So you can clear that out, go through here. Some additional filters right now, specifically for the expanding verticals like a chimney sweep, a garage door, our fireplace and garage door presence, as well as flooring material. We are looking to add in number of bedrooms and bathrooms relatively shortly. That is something that we've queued up to be worked on relatively soon. But I'll go ahead and take a pause here. I just want to collect your guys' initial reaction to this filter set. Is there anything that screams missing, or is there anything that you guys would add that would be super, super valuable?
I guess I'm curious to see how the data looks for our area. When the property information initially came out, there was a ton of it that was blank. And I know that it's been improved, since then, but I'm just super interested to start filtering like this and seeing what pops up.
For sure. One thing to be aware of in regards to the data. So this data is being sourced from public assessment records. And assessment records typically only ever happen at a few different points. So number one, if a home is sold or if it's listed for sale, obviously an assessment will be done. If a home is refinanced, that's again another point of reassessment. But typically it is normal to see a home that hasn't had an assessment, and because of that, data can be old or sometime a bit behind. And another thing I want to call out too is state from state, city to city, county from county, the actual regulations as to what's mandatory within a home assessment are slightly tangential. So for example, in California, flooring material is a required field, whereas in Alaska, it isn't, just for the sake of example. So I'd really encourage you guys to get familiar with what data is available locally, just to kind of understand what you can expect. And again, just to call it out, it is based off of home assessment data, so it is dependent on the last assessment. And there may be the case where some sort of non-permitted work has been done, or maybe some sort of changes have been made to the house that just haven't been reflected within the assessment file anyway. Go ahead, pause there. Is there any question, any concerns, or any feedback that anybody wants to get out?
I thought I heard something mentioned, but was owner occupied one of the filters, or is that a possibility?
It's an upcoming filter for us. It's not in the product currently, but something that we'll look to add post GA if possible.
Okay.
That's the current thinking. All right, so once the audience has been set up and you're kind of happy with your filters, at that point, there's two things. One, you could go through the members list yourself and just spot check a few of the records, which I'd recommend doing. Just go through this list within the audience details page, make sure it is as expected. Then what you can do from here is simply go through the normal direct mail campaign flow to actually build out your acquisition campaign. So let's say we're ready to go ahead and do some sort of like general branding campaign. Go ahead and start the campaign setup. The campaign setup goes pretty much the exact same way as your normal direct mail campaign. So at this point, once you kind of get through all of the necessary steps and you're ready to move on to the next one, all you do is just opt for the acquisition audience in the campaign builder. Then at this point, you can move on and build the actual direct mail campaign. So once you apply the card, and your content,
Dogs do really well on postcards, by the way.
yes, yes. Anecdotally, the dogs work really, really well. And people love cute things. So it's a good way to stimulate an emotional response from somebody. Just put something that's cute in front of them. Anyway, once the card's been set up to your liking, at this point in the review step, you'll get your estimated delivery, your estimated cost. Again, you have the opportunity to just make sure that the audience that you chose is the right one, number of addresses look correct, and at that point, you simply schedule. So that's pretty much direct mail acquisition in a gist. To give you guys some context, within that assessment file, there's literally hundreds of property attributes, anything from the number of water fixtures in the house to if there's like a tennis court on it or the square footage of the porch. Literally any single thing you can think about is filled out. It doesn't mean that we have all the data available for every single home, but it means that to some degree there is some data available. And what I'm curious to know is if there's any filters that you guys would deem valuable, specifically in relation to the property attributes. Again, call it out and let us know. The more we hear it, the higher we'll prioritize it.
A permit filter would be nice. Like if they pulled a permit for remodel, we do a lot of barn dominiums out here in Texas. And if they've done something like that and pulled a permit, I'd like to know about it.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there a certain, by the way, when it comes to looking at permits, is there like a certain range of time you want the permit to be within?
I would say within a year. That way, if it's within a year, then that they probably did this mechanical permit, so they probably don't need advertised to replace their unit. Maybe they need advertised to do like a preventative maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, are there specific type of permits you would be primarily looking for?
Yeah, so HVAC would be a mechanical permit.
Okay.
That would be pulled through the city, and that should be public.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for HVAC, mainly you would be interested in the mechanical permits.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Is that something you guys do currently? Like, are you pulling or requesting the public data? And then
I tag every new customer that I get, and I look at the CAD for the city. That way I can save us gas money too. So I'm tagging the neighborhood and I'm looking at the CAD already. So part of what I do, just because I'm extra, I look and see if there's been any permits pulled at that house. So I know they might be in the market to buy a unit, or they might be in the market for, how I should talk to them.
That makes perfect sense. Okay.
Or I guess one thing I could see we don't do duct cleaning. We have a partner for duct cleaning, but if somebody pulls a building permit for a remodel and is throwing sheetrock dust all up into the air, and having that knowledge to say, you could benefit from this might be a good thing.
Gotcha. And I imagine the type of, in general, just knowing the type of ducting would help as well. Okay.
Because like trailers, they have, the under ducting, and the mobile homes, or what type of home it is important for me to know too. A lot of times hard duct, there's in a lot of older homes, flex duct in the newer. So.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. In terms of acquisition guide, I think that's pretty much all we had to demo. I'll go ahead and give up the share right now and hand it back. But again, if there are any questions, and if anybody would like to use it, feel free to just call it out right now. I'll make note to reach out to you guys and help you guys get set up if it is something that you guys would be interested in.
Hey, yeah. That's awesome. So you can fill out the survey, link in the chat, please fill that out. But Evan has a question about SMS. So we might as well just go ahead and address that. I have a question for you about SMS, automated recurring service reminders. That's a long name. Probably best to address it at the end, but Evan, go ahead and ask your question because that's not in the text that I was reading. Sorry.
So there was I think it's one of the most recent blue collar nerd videos that came out about the SMS reminders. And, you know, when you go to build the message itself, you have, you know, you say, hi, it's Paul's Heating and Air Conditioning. It's time to schedule your maintenance. Please give us a call at this number or reply back to schedule. And then when I try to add an online scheduler option, we use Schedule Engine for our website plugin. So what is the best way to get that link on there? Because it's not the drag and drop piece. I tried adding HTML tags where, you know, you try to title the link and get it to go from cryptic HTML to the word, and it says you're more than 300 characters, you know, please try again.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see what it is.
I think we've had a few customers who are also using a schedule engine, and what they'll end up sometimes doing that helped them was they'll use some of the URL shortener. They'll put the link in a URL shortener, like Google has one and others have one, and then you'll get that unique link for that, and then you can just drop the shortened URL in there instead of the long one. Depending how long your text message text is, you might even be able to fit the schedule engine link, but we usually recommend if you can do it through URL shortener. You can, and the other thing is you'll get interesting statistics from a lot of the URL shorteners as well, who clicked on it, what time they clicked on it, and things like that.
Okay, yeah, I've used those a while back, but I didn't consider to do that for a text message because that would whenever I get a long spammy link looking thing on my phone, I'm like, no way am I clicking on that.
Yeah, I was gonna
SMS
say.
is very SMS is kind of like very still old school when it comes to styling and things. You can't really do any kind of HTML coding or any kind of designs and things like that. So that's one thing we kind of have to deal with. So the shorter the URLs, the better it is. So
yeah, even without the online link, I think the text reminders are a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah,
I can remember trying to give phone calls and individual emails to, you know, our 250 people that we contact every summer and fall. I don't want.
yeah. When we were talking to a lot of our tenants, they're like, you know, as we have 4 or 5 CSRs sitting there all day dialing, and most of the time we could actually see it through, like I was going through some of our tenants' data, you could see that they would trying like 2-3 times a day, and then it was going to voicemail. But they send a text message, people respond like right away or even like a few hours later, and it was done. I think a lot of people actually from the consumer endpoint homeowners preferred it. Still, I don't know why. I'm in Sacramento, California. I still get phone calls from my company that does the maintenance on all my HVAC stuff. And I'm not going to pick up the phone. Well, right now they could be calling me. And it happened. I'm in a meeting and they call me and I don't pick up. So they leave a voicemail and I don't even check my voicemails anymore. So it's like, but if they texted me, it's one of the funniest thing one of our tenants actually mentioned is people right now, the behavior is, and I think for the long time is going to be, people don't delete their text messages. It's such a big thing for them to actually delete it. So they'll keep it until they go back to it and open it, whatever is unread. And then they'll respond to it or click on the link. On phone calls and voicemails, I mean, we're all getting so many like robocalls nowadays and everything else. No one, I think, reacts to phone calls as much anymore. So I think text messages made a huge improvement, especially if you can drop even like a web schedule link in there. That was one of our funniest things we saw through our data. Tenants who actually were using the recurring services, and instead of saying text back or maybe call back, were dropping the schedule link we're seeing a very big drop in SMS replies, and we're like, what's going on? Until we realized people are actually going and scheduling online without even talking to anyone, the CSRs and stuff, which is beautiful because that frees up your CSRs to do other more important tasks. The consumer can self-journey themselves and self-service themselves and schedule the maintenance or whatever they need to schedule. And if there's a conflict, the CSR can still pick whatever is maybe conflicting on the schedule and call them back or text them back and reschedule. A lot of them were actually doing it. They were texting it back instead of calling back. And through the text messages, they were figuring out a new time and scheduling without getting on the phone. And they can do 5-7 different text messages simultaneously. You know, you can't talk to 5-7 people at the same time. So it's a big difference in terms of like efficiency and cost.
Yeah, because your people hit the bottom line, right? And their time hits the bottom line when it comes to spend. And our CSRs, we had one dedicated to just call. And I was like, is that really what we want to do? Like, how are people responding? And now I think about it. And so then we created a digital speed team. And so that was their job to answer all of the chats, to answer all of the digital, and they had to answer under 30 seconds. Now I would say it needs to be a little bit more with the conversion time of what Google wants you to do on your website, right? How fast does it want it to load? So we were just constantly competing with our conversion goal in that metric. This way you don't really have to. So we are going to wrap up. Is there any more questions? Nope. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. I'll send out this recording on Facebook. Here is the survey link again. You will get it on Facebook one more time and via email. I will throw that in your face. Really appreciate you guys joining.
Yes,
happy
thank you.
Friday, happy weekend, and enjoy.
And
Talk to
please
you
don't
later.
hesitate to reach out to Ara and I.
Yeah,
We're always available. Yeah.
I'll put their email addresses in there
Yes.
just for
No,
you.
literally. No, do it. Like open doors. Yeah.
I will.
Reach out to ask whatever you need to. It's good to communicate with our customers and continuously get feedback. That's where we learn most.
We appreciate you. Thanks. Have a great
Thank you
one.
so much.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.